The desert wind howled like a wounded animal, kicking up dust devils across the empty trail. Clara Whitmore gripped the reins tighter, her knuckles white against the leather. She wasn't used to this country, the endless red earth, the silence broken only by coyotes. She was a schoolteacher from Boston, sent west to bring books and letters to children who barely had shoes. But tonight, the wide prairie felt less like God's land and more like a trap. She whispered to herself, half prayer, half plea, just a few more miles. Just get me to Red Hollow. But the road didn't give her peace. It gave her hoofbeats. 3 riders appeared from behind the ridge, their shapes black against the burning sunset. Dust trailed behind them like smoke. Clara's heart jumped into her throat as the men closed in fast, circling her wagon like wolves. Scarves covered their faces, pistols gleamed at their sides. One leaned close, his voice rough, teeth yellow when... He grinned. "Evening, schoolmarm. There's no place on the road for a lady like you." Clara's hands shook on the reins. "I have nothing, please." Another rider laughed, cold and sharp. "We ain't after books, darling." Her breath caught. She tugged the reins desperately, but the mare stumbled, panicked. Before she could scream, the leader's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist hard enough to bruise. "You're coming with us." Then a gunshot split the night. The leader's hat flew clean off his head, a bullet hole punched straight through the crown. He jerked back in shock and released her. The riders wheeled, searching. From the shadow of the rock stepped a lone man, long duster coat, hat low, revolver smoking. His steel blue eyes caught the last of the sun, cold as cut glass. The riders cursed and drew, but the stranger's hands were quicker. 2 shots cracked in the fading light, and 2 men hit the dust, horses scattering wild. The last rider fled, shouting into the wind, leaving Clara frozen in the wagon, heart pounding in her chest. The stranger holstered his Colt and walked toward her slowly, boots sinking into the dust. Clara shrank back, clutching the reins. "Please, don't hurt me." His voice came low, rough, but steady. "If I wanted to, you'd know it already." He stopped just shy of the wagon, tilting his hat back enough for her to see his face. Weathered skin, a sharp jaw, the kind of man who looked like he'd buried more friends than he could count. "Name's Elias Kane," he said, "and you just rode straight into Cole Younger's hunting grounds." She swallowed hard. "Cole? Who?" "A man you don't want to meet. These roads belong to him. And now that his boys have seen you, they'll come back for blood." Clara's voice shook. Why did you save me?" His eyes lingered on her for a long, heavy moment, then he looked away. "Didn't save you," he muttered. "Just don't like sharps taking what ain't theirs." But even as he said it, his hand hovered near his revolver, scanning the ridges, muscles taut like a wolf ready to strike again. Silence stretched. Finally, he nodded toward the trail. "You're headed to Red Hollow?" She nodded quickly. "Yes, the children. I teach the children." A faint shadow passed his face, something softer, almost regretful. "Then ride close to me," he said. "If you stay out here alone, Cole's men will take you before midnight." Clara hesitated. He was an outlaw. She could hear it in the way he carried himself, in the way town names seemed to hang unspoken in his voice. But behind the dust and danger, there was something else too, something she couldn't yet name. Her mare snorted nervously as the sun dipped lower and shadows stretched long. Finally, she whispered, "All right." Elias mounted, guiding his horse, beside her wagon. As they rode into the gathering night, Clara kept glancing at him, the outlaw who had saved her life. And though the wind bit sharp and fear twisted in her chest, she felt something she hadn't expected. Not safe, not trust, and something more dangerous, hope. For the sun hadn't risen yet, but Red Hollow was already awake. Smoke drifted lazy from crooked chimneys. Dogs barked at nothing. Somewhere a hammer clanged against steel, sharp and lonely. Elias Kane kept his hat low as he led Clara through the dusty streets. Cole Younger's men were here, leaning against posts, playing cards on wooden barrels, watching everything with cold, sharp eyes. Clara walked close behind him, clutching her satchel like a shield. She felt their stares crawling up her spine, but Elias never slowed, never looked back. At Abigail's inn, he stopped and turned to her. "Second floor?" he said. "Last door at the end of the hall. You stay there. Lock the door. Don't open it for nobody but me." Clara frowned, nervous. "Why? I thought we were safe in town." Elias's jaw tightened. "Safe?" He glanced toward the saloon where two riders were watching from the porch, their fingers twitching near their pistols. "Ain't no such thing as safe when Cole owns the men who wear the badge." Upstairs in the small rented room, Clara set her satchel on the bed while Elias stood near the window, shoulders tense, scanning the street below like a hunted wolf. Finally, she broke the silence. "Why are they after you?" Elias kept his eyes on the street. "I used to ride with Cole," he said flatly, "back before I learned what he really was." She hesitated. "And what's that?" He turned, meeting her gaze for the first time since they entered the room. "A man who don't care who burns, so long as he's the last one standing." Clara sat slowly on the edge of the bed, her skirts rustling softly. "And you? What made you leave?" For a moment, his steel blue eyes softened just a fraction, like a man showing a scar without meaning to. "One night," he said quietly, "Cole's boys hit a stagecoach. Thought it was carrying banknotes. Turned out it was a family. A little girl got caught in the crossfire." Cole laughed. Elias looked away, jaw clenched tight. "That was the last night I rode with him." Clara watched him in silence, fingers twisting in her lap. Finally she whispered, "And now he wants you dead." Elias nodded once. "Or worse." Her voice trembled. "Worse?" "Men like Cole don't just kill," he said, voice low, dangerous. "They take, and if they can't take me, they'll take something I care about. Right now, that's you." There's Clara's breath caught, and before she could speak, Elias turned sharply from the window. "Pack what you need," he said, voice rough. "We're leaving." "What? Why?" "Because those two bastards outside the saloon been staring holes through this wall for the last 10 minutes. By nightfall, they'll know where you sleep." That night, they rode 3 miles outside town to a lonely cabin tucked into the cottonwoods. The desert wind sighed low through the branches, and the lantern on the table threw soft gold light across the walls. Clara unpacked her books quietly, while Elias stripped his colt, laying its pieces carefully on a worn cloth. "You saved me," she said softly, breaking the silence. He didn't look up. "Don't thank me." "Why not?" Elias slid a bullet into the cylinder, thumb steady. "'Cause if I don't put Cole Younger in the ground first, won't matter what I did." Silence. Stretched again, thicker this time, broken only by the soft crackle of the lantern. Clara watched his hands, steady, sure, like the weapon was part of him. Finally, she whispered, "Elias." "Yeah? You scare me less than you used to." For the first time since she met him, he paused. Slowly, he lifted his gaze to hers. Something shifted in his eyes, not softer exactly, but less cold. "That's so." Clara nodded, barely breathing. "That's so." Outside, an owl called low. Inside, the air between them seemed to hum. Finally, Elias pushed the colt aside, resting his forearms on the table. "Don't get used to me being here," he said quietly. "When Cole comes, I'll be gone before he takes you with me." Clara stood, crossing the small space between them. "What if I don't want you gone?" she whispered. Elias looked up sharply, steel blue eyes burning like cold fire. "Then you're making a mistake." She wanted to speak, but footsteps thundered past the cabin outside, horses snorting, in the dark. Elias was up instantly, colt in hand, back to the wall. They both held their breath as shadows passed the window. From outside, a man's voice hissed low. "Cabin's lit. He's in there." Another voice replied, "Cole'll want her alive." Clara's heart slammed against her ribs. Elias's jaw tightened. He leaned close, whispering against her ear, his voice like smoke. "When I tell you, blow that lantern out." Clara nodded, trembling. Outside, boots crunched closer. Elias raised 3 fingers. 2, 1. The lantern went black. Gunfire ripped through the walls. Elias fired back, each shot measured, clean, lethal. Clara crouched low behind the table, hands over her head, heart hammering. When the last bullet spent, silence returned, broken only by the scrape of retreating, Boots and the sound of horses bolting into the night. Elias exhaled slowly, holstering his Colt. "You all right?" Clara nodded, though her hands still trembled. "Elias," she whispered. "What happens when Cole comes himself?" Elias glanced toward the open door, jaw set hard as stone. "Then, Clara?" He chambered another round and looked back at her. "We finish this." The desert was quiet at dawn, but Elias Kane knew better than to trust silence. He'd been up since first light, sitting on the porch of the little cabin, rifle resting across his knees. Clara was inside, still asleep, her soft breathing the only sound he trusted anymore. He sipped cold coffee, eyes scanning the cottonwoods, every sense sharp as a drawn blade. That's when he heard it. Distant thud of hooves, faint but steady. He pushed the door open, voice low but urgent. "Clara, wake up!" She stirred, rubbing her eyes. "What is it?" "Company." Her gaze went to the window where dust rose in the distance like smoke on the horizon. "Is it him?" she whispered. Elias nodded once. "Cole." Within minutes, 6 riders broke through the trees, rifles glinting in the pale light. Cole Younger rode at their head, black duster coat, wide-brimmed hat, a grin sharp as a knife. He reined his horse hard, boots hitting the dirt as he dismounted. "Elias Kane," Cole drawled, voice lazy but laced with venom. "Thought you could crawl into a hole and hide from me." Elias stepped off the porch, revolver at his side, calm as a preacher at Sunday Mass. "Ain't hiding, Cole. Then you got dumber than I remember." Cole's eyes slid past Elias to the cabin door. When he saw Clara standing there, his grin widened. "Well now, ain't this a fine surprise?" Clara shrank back instinctively, but Cole tipped his hat mockingly. "Missy," he said smoothly, "why don't you come on out here, for someone gets hurt?" Elias shifted, blocking her from view. "She ain't yours to touch." Cole's laughter rolled like distant thunder. "Ain't she? Far as I see it, you took something of mine when you walked away. That makes everything you touch mine by right." Before Elias could reply, one of Cole's men lunged forward, grabbing Clara by the wrist and yanking her clean off the porch. She screamed, kicking and clawing, but the man's grip was iron. Elias's Colt cleared leather in a blink. 2 shots dropped the rider holding her. But before Clara could scramble free, another outlaw swung up behind her, jerking her onto his saddle. "Elias!" she screamed, reaching for him. Cole laughed, spurring his horse. "You want her back, Kane? You come to me." The riders wheeled hard, disappearing into a cloud of dust before Elias could fire again. Silence crashed down on the cabin. Elias stood frozen, Colt still smoking, Clara's scream ringing in his ears. He holstered the gun slowly, jaw locked so tight it hurt. Abigail, breathless from running up the path, grabbed his arm. "Elias, don't you ride after him. Cole'll kill you before you get 10 yards. Elias didn't look at her. "Not if I kill him first." The small cabin was dark except for the single lantern on the table. Elias sat there alone, loading rounds into his rifle one by one, the metal clicks loud in the silence. Abigail hovered, in the doorway, wringing her hands. "This ain't just about her, is it?" He didn't answer. "You been running from Cole for years, Elias. Don't go letting this girl make you do something that gets you killed." Finally, Elias raised his gaze, steel blue eyes cold and steady. "If I die bringing her back, at least I die knowing I didn't leave her in his hands." They dragged Clara into a rough camp by the river, tying her wrists and forcing her to sit on a bedroll beneath the open stars. Cole crouched in front of her, that mocking grin never fading. "Ain't personal, darling," he said softly, brushing dust from his coat. "You're just bait. Kane's coming, and when he does..." He leaned close enough for her to smell the whiskey on his breath. "He ain't leaving." Clara glared at him, her fear hidden under defiance. "He'll come," she whispered. "And when he does, you'll wish you'd killed me instead." Cole chuckled low, shaking his head. "Oh, I like you." Elias mounted his horse under the cold glow of the rising moon, rifle slung across his back. Abigail stood at the porch, eyes wet, voice tight. "You can't ride in there alone." "Ain't got a choice. She wouldn't want you dying for her." He pulled the brim of his hat low, staring into the silver-lit horizon. "Ain't dying for her," he said quietly. "I'm dying with her if I have to." An hour later, Elias lay flat on a sandstone ridge looking down at Cole's campfire below. 6 men. 2 sentries pacing the tree line, Clara tied near the river, her hair glowing pale in the moonlight. He adjusted his rifle scope, heart pounding steady and slow. First shot, One sentry dropped without a sound. Second shot, the other crumpled into the dirt. Then Elias was up, moving like a shadow, silent as death. Clara saw him first, emerging from the trees. Relief flooded her eyes, but she didn't dare speak. Elias crouched beside her, knife flashing as he cut her binds. "Quiet. Now," he whispered, breath warm against her ear. Clara nodded, tears threatening. But before they could move, Cole's voice roared behind them. "Thought you'd come slithering in, Kane." Elias turned slowly, rifle rising. "Let her go, Cole." Cole smirked, revolver gleaming in the firelight. "Ain't how this ends." The standoff froze the night. Fire cracked. Horses shifted nervously. The river murmured quietly between gun barrels. Then Cole snapped his fingers. 3 rifles cocked behind Elias at once. Clara gasped, clutching his arm. Elias lowered his weapon slowly, steel blue, eyes locked on Cole's grin. "Tie him up," Cole ordered. "Tomorrow we finish this where everyone can see." The sun climbed hard and fast, turning Red Hollow's main street into a river of heat. Shadows shrank beneath the wooden storefronts. Horses stamped nervously in their ties, tails swatting flies. By midday, the whole town had gathered, from the balconies, from the windows, from the porches of the old saloon. Everyone watched in silence, their faces pale beneath the weight of what was coming. Cole Younger stood at one end of the street, black duster coat trailing behind him, hands resting easy on the butts of his revolvers. Elias Kane faced him from the other, hat low, boots planted in the dust. Between them, Clara stood under guard, wrists tied, a bandit's grip tight on her arm. The sheriff leaned against a post outside his office, arms folded, saying nothing. Everyone knew Cole paid his wages. Everyone knew this wasn't the law's fight. Cole's grin stretched, slow, lazy, cruel. "Didn't think you had the spine." "To show," he called, voice carrying clear in the heat. Elias didn't answer. He didn't need to. Cole took a step forward, boots crunching in the dirt. "You took from me, Kane, rode out on me, cost me men, coins, and face." He nodded toward Clara. "I take her, we call it even." Clara struggled against the grip on her arm, panic flashing in her eyes. Elias's steel blue gaze stayed locked on Cole. "She ain't yours to take." And Cole laughed, a sound like dry leaves cracking under boot. "Ain't she? Far as I see it, everything you touch belongs to me by right." Elias spoke quiet, so quiet Cole had to lean forward to hear. "Step 1 inch closer, Cole, and I swear you won't take another." The 2 men stared across the empty street, heat shimmering between them, sweat running down the faces of onlookers. Finally, Cole tilted his head, voice dropping low. "No more talking. Draw." The silence that followed was thick as church smoke. Clara's breath caught, her heart hammering so loud she swore the whole town heard it. A tumbleweed rolled lazily between them, catching on a boot before skittering away. The whole world seemed to hold its breath. Then Cole moved, fast as a rattler's strike, but Elias was faster. 2 shots cracked like thunder, dust exploding beneath their boots. Cole staggered back, his revolver slipping from his hand, a dark bloom spreading across his side. He hit his knees, choking, on his own breath, eyes wide in disbelief. The man holding Clara shoved her aside, bolting down the alley without a glance back. The rest of Cole's men scattered like birds under gunfire. The sheriff stayed where he was, jaw tight, saying nothing. Cole coughed, blood, dark against his lips, glaring up at Elias. "You should have killed me years ago." Elias holstered his Colt slowly. "Yeah," he said softly. "I should have." Cole collapsed into the dust, the heat swallowing his last breath. For a moment, silence hung heavy over Red Hollow. Then Clara ran to Elias, throwing her arms around. I thought," she started, breathless. "Don't," he said, pulling her close. "Ain't no thought worth speaking." Her fingers gripped the back of his coat, trembling, tears soaking into the worn leather. Abigail stepped forward from the crowd, hands clasped tight, voice steady but kind. "Town's free of him now, Elias." Elias glanced around at the faces in the windows, the quiet murmurs starting to rise. "Town ain't free," he said, voice low, bitter. "Not yet, but it can be." Red Hollow's saloon sat quiet, lantern light spilling across empty tables. Elias sat alone, hat low, whiskey untouched before him. Clara approached softly, skirts brushing the sawdust floor. "You saved me," she said. He shook his head without looking up. "Didn't save you, Clara, just stopped running." She sat across from him, hands folded, searching his face. "And now?" she asked gently. For the first time, Elias lifted his gaze to hers. His voice came quiet, rough, but sure. "Now. I reckon I stay." The air smelled of fresh-cut pine as new boards went up over broken windows. Children laughed in the schoolyard again. Red Hollow was breathing easier. One evening, Elias leaned against the porch rail of the little cabin. Clara stepped out beside him, 2 steaming mugs in hand. She passed him one, her fingers brushing his. "Think Cole's men'll come back?" she asked softly. Elias sipped the coffee, watching the sun bleed gold over the mesa. "Maybe," he said, "but they won't find the same man they knew." Clara smiled faintly, leaning against his shoulder. "Guess that makes 2 of us." The desert wind carried the smell of rain. The shadows stretched long and easy. And for the first time in years, Elias Kane smiled. Not like an outlaw, not like a man hunted, but like a man who'd finally found somewhere to belong. Every frontier holds a secret, and every heart rides with its ghosts. If you want to hear more tales like this one, subscribe and ride with me on the next trail.